the feel, or how it looks at the top, or if it's even real. We ain't selling dreams, but we live in some. No arms license and still we stick to our guns. We here to live for ourselves first. And if in doing that it helps you, so be it. Let it drive. Let's go. We're gonna live it full.
If I keep living my life, eventually I'll allow my truth.
Better talk to him.
I'm gonna take my time and find what's right for me. I'm gonna live my life.
We gon' live life. Living full. No more empty glasses here. I said no more empty glasses or even half full. When the world see that we blessed more than a handful. That's why you can't put your finger on it, we got the touch. Never perfect, living with purpose, that be us. Open the curtains, we give the real like behind the scenes. We give the heart in our chest and wear it on our sleeves. I don't lend my clothes so you know it's really me. I cop that so I rock, that's how it really be. But metaphorical, speaking my piece, that when I do, haters zip they lips like it's rhetorical. My past experience makes me an oracle. Don't believe when it's from me, so I write it down allegorical. Ain't trying to be the clouds, always overheads. Sometimes I gotta be the ground to hold you down and stand. For yourself first, then we go get the fam. Build them up, set them up like it's already planned.
He fought tears as he spoke of your mother's health. I guess a part of him just couldn't return. Forgiveness is a lesson he cursed you to learn. And as your guardian, I was instructed well to make sense of God's love in these fires of just to live what little life your broken heart can. And maybe your light is a seed, in the darkness, the dirt. In spite of the uneven odds, beauty lives from the earth, from the earth. As the years move on, these questions take shape. Are you getting stronger, or is time shifting away? And no one expects you to understand. Just to live what little life your mended heart can. You'll always remember the moment God took her away. For the weight of the world was placed on your shoulders that day. And maybe your light is a seed, in the darkness, the dirt. In spite of the uneven odds, beauty lives from the earth, from the earth, from the earth, from the earth, from the earth. You're much too young now, so I'll write these words down. Darkness exists to make light truly count.
Good morning. On behalf of all these people pictured here, welcome to Paradox Church. My name is Anna.
My name is Chris. I am Anna's husband. The two of us recently moved to the area when a friend of ours recommended we check out Paradox about 2 months ago. We have enjoyed being a part of this community ever since.
And my name is Regina. I'm in the young adult group here at Paradox with Anna and Chris. I started attending Paradox about a year ago because I Googled churches in the area and saw that this church was talking about Thessalonians and Olivia Rodrigo. That piqued my interest, and I want to say whether you are in person or online, we are so glad you are here.
Today, we are very excited to announce our holiday outreach projects for 2023.
For Thanksgiving, we are partnering for the 8th year in a row with Redlands Family Service Association for the big Thanksgiving food drive.
We are working to help feed families in need right here in the community of Redlands.
There are 2 ways you can participate. The first is by getting a grocery list in the lobby and then bringing the groceries with you to our church service next week, November 11th, or the following week, November 18th.
The second way you can participate is by writing a check to Paradox or paying over Venmo in increments of $10. For every $10 you give, we'll purchase a Stater Bros gift card, and the Redlands Family Services will ensure that those cards get to the correct families.
When you give via check or Venmo, please make sure to denote that you are giving to the Thanksgiving outreach. If you have any questions, find Marilee Schofield after the service.
For Christmas, we are working with Youth Hope for the first time in their annual shoe drive. For $55, you can purchase a brand new pair of shoes for an unhoused teenager. Youth Hope will then ensure that these shoes will get to the teenager who needs them here in this community.
We have names in the lobby that you can pick up to purchase shoes for. If you take a name, make sure you pay for the shoes. Otherwise, a teenager will be without shoes this Christmas.
Once again, you can give by check or Venmo to Paradox. Just make sure to denote this gift is for the Christmas outreach. Or if you would like to go and purchase the shoes yourself, we have instructions available in the lobby on how to do that as well.
We would love for you to participate in one or both of our outreach programs this holiday season. Speaking of participation, if you do not have any plans tonight, then we would love for you to join us for our fall party at the Weathers residence.
We're going to have crafts for the kids, games for the adults, pizza for all, and good times for everyone.
Everyone is invited to join the party. If you want to attend, please let Jasmine know, who's sitting right over there after the service, and she will share the address with you. We hope to see you all there.
One of the mantras we live by here at Paradox is that sermons are meant to start discussions, not end them.
If you had to agree with all of Pastor Craig's sermons in order to be part of this church, none of us would be here.
But the point of a sermon isn't to see who is in and who is out. The point of a sermon is to start a conversation in your life about what it means to become a more loving person.
We have a few midweek discussion groups that keep the conversation going, and you are all welcome to join one of the last couple weeks of this session.
Or we have printed discussion guides in the lobby if you want to have a family discussion over lunch today about the sermon.
Our mission at this church is to see and embrace Jesus Christ in all, and we hope our music, our sermons, our greeters, and our kids' ministry all work together to help you see God's loving presence in all you encounter.
Today, we are starting a brand new sermon series that will run throughout the month of November.
This series, entitled Paradox 101, is a series that is meant to serve as an introduction to this church.
In this series, we are going to talk about the history, the mission, the ethos, the theology, the affirmation of queer folks, and a parable of Jesus.
Today, Pastor Craig's sermon is named An Introduction to Paradox Church. This sermon is composed of 7 tiny sermons, which include the church's history, structure, future goals, and more.
In between the mini-sermons, we will sing a number of songs that have meant a lot to this church over our nearly 8-year history.
If this is your first time here, then you picked a perfect Saturday to join us for church. If this is your 100th time here, we hope today's service will remind you why you love being a part of Paradox.
Thank you for the gift of your presence here with us this morning.
We hope today's service inspires you to make this your spiritual home if you're searching for one.
And we hope that you discover a piece of your own beautiful story in our church's story.
Amen.
Much too young now, so I'll write these words down. Darkness exists to make light truly come.
Today we are starting a series called Paradox 101. And to introduce you to Paradox Church, I built this sermon around 5 different questions. And then we're going to hear 3 people share what it's like to be part of Paradox Church at the end. So with that in mind, let's start with the first question. And I think all introductions to churches should start with this question. Why should I belong to a church? And to answer that question, I want to talk about 3 different answers. The first one is the wrong answer. The second is the basic answer. And the third is the best answer. Let's begin with the wrong answer, shall we? I have heard people talk about church as a way to earn cosmic grace from the Creator. It's almost like God is watching you on the weekend and asking what you're doing, and God is hoping from God's infinite place on high that you will put your behind in a church pew. And there's this idea that we can make God happy if we go and we attend church. Not only that, but you'll notice there are some people who really enjoy boring church because they believe they're there for the right reasons, not to be entertained. So they wear boring church as like a badge of honor to say, see God, I'm here and I'm miserable, but I'm here for you. There are also people who believe that if they study the Bible exhaustively and find every truth that is in the Bible's pages, they will be able to discern which church is the right church and which church is the false church. My friends, all of these are the wrong answer. Anyone who says, I want to belong to a church so God will love me more, is going in the wrong direction, because we believe that God fully loves all of us to God's fullest capacity from the get-go. So this idea that we should go to church is not one that's tied to our eternal salvation or God's love. There is a better way to view church, which moves us from the wrong answer to the basic answer. Now you may be asking, what's a basic answer? Well, as you all know, faith ebbs and flows, right? And basic answers are really good in seasons of doubts because it doesn't require you to do or believe anything. It's just like the ground floor of your thought process, right? So the basic answer is for the moments of existential crises. To go and describe why we should belong to a church, I'm going to go to an unlikely source, which is the JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. We have some fans here this morning. I don't think anyone here is applauding the graphic design of this journal. Is that right? Now, I want to be very clear. I do not sit around at night reading the JAMA to put myself to sleep. I've never read it before, but I have been pushed this direction because there's been some interesting studies over the last several years that talk about church and your personal health. If you go to JAMA Internal Medicine from 2016, they published a study that says frequent attendance at religious services was associated with significantly lower risk of all-cause cardiovascular and cancer mortality among women. Religion and spirituality may be an underappreciated resource that physicians could explore with their patients as appropriate. So that's from the internal medicine doctors, but it doesn't stop there. The epidemiologists in 2018 published a study that said, compared with never attendance, at least weekly service attendance was subsequently associated with greater life satisfaction and positive affect, greater volunteering, greater sense of mission, more forgiveness, and lower probabilities of drug use and early sexual initiation. And even just a few years ago in 2020, the psychiatrists published in their journal their own study, which found that the findings suggest that frequent attendance at religious services is associated with lower subsequent risk of deaths from despair, which are deaths related to drugs, alcohol, and suicide. So if we took all the faith out of it, right, and you were in a season of severe doubt and you needed just a basic answer, the basic answer of why anyone would want to belong to a church is, I want to belong to a church to have a healthier life. You may feel like this is propaganda. My friends, this is science. And the JAMA has not been co-opted by the religious right? So that's the basic answer. Let's talk about the best answer, shall we? Because there's one that's a little bit better than I'm in this for me, right? The best answer is rooted in a story that takes place in Matthew chapter 22 in the city of Jerusalem. Now, Jesus is speaking to religious officials at the temple. We assume it was in the court of the Gentiles, which is right here. And a religious leader goes to Jesus and says, Jesus, we have 613 commandments. Which one is the best? And Jesus answers this person. Jesus says to him, you must love the Most High God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. Now, I assume the religious leader at this point nodded his head and started to walk away. And as he was walking away, Jesus said, the second is like it. And the religious leader turns around and says, well, I only asked for one. What's this second commandment you're going to talk about? And before Jesus can answer that question, he proceeds and says, you must love your neighbor as yourself. And then he says the real kicker, which is on these two commandments, the whole law is based, and the prophets as well. Now, in Jesus' day and age, this represented the majority of the Bible. So Jesus is saying, hey, I know you find a lot of value in Bible study, but I can save you a lot of time. It's all leading you to loving God and loving others. That's the whole point. So if you like reading the Bible, great, but you can skip it if you keep trying to love God and love others with all that you have. This leads directly into the best answer of why anyone would want to belong to a church. The best answer we can give is, I want to belong to a church to become a more loving person. Specifically, more loving of God, more loving of others, and I would dare to add just a little bit to what Jesus is saying. I think it's implied, which is more loving of myself. This is what churches should do for everyone who encounters them. It should lead them to being more kind, more compassionate, more forgiving people. And let's imagine that you got involved at Paradox Church and you spent years here, and then you all of a sudden had to move away. And then after a couple of years away, you come back and you visit again, and I say, how are things going? You tell me it's going great. And then you say to me, I want to tell you something about Paradox. And before you say anything, I think to myself, there is the highest compliment that anyone can pay me, and I hope that that's this. And if you were to say this, this would be the best thing of what Paradox is trying to do, and you would nail it on the head, is if someone says, Paradox Church has helped me become a more loving person.
I invite you to sing this out this morning. Give it all you got. Here we go. And sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always two. We all need somebody to lean on. Sing it out. I just might that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. So lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you. That you can't carry. I'm right up that road. I'll share your load. If you just call me, here we go. You just call me
Another question that I frequently get as the pastor of Paradox Church is, where did Paradox Church come from? Well, to answer that question, I am embarrassed to say this, but we have to go back over 40 years ago to the time I was born, when I was dedicated at the Santa Monica Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, I was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist Christian tradition, and I have to tell you, I had a very good experience being raised in that tradition. I enjoyed the people, I enjoyed my teachers, I enjoyed my friends. Things were great for me within the bubble of the Seventh-day Adventist tradition. But then I went to Montana State University. And for the first time in my life, I made friends with people who were not Seventh-day Adventists. These people were wonderful people, but when they told me about church, they had a very different experience than what I had. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to be a pastor to help give people a better church experience. And so I enrolled in seminary after graduating from Montana State, and I went to La Sierra University, took classes in this building, and as I was a seminary student, I started a high school ministry in 2008 called The Fall. Now, it's fascinating because while this was started nearly 15 years ago, or actually 15 years ago, now that I'm doing the math on stage, this deeply impacted what Paradox would eventually become. To give you an idea, we met people that were some incredible people, and some people who are still part of Paradox today. People like Peter Fukuda, the drummer, Hillary Suho, who is our head elder now, and also Sarah Aragante, who has been with us from the very beginning. And I was a volunteer at the Fall, and there were so many good memories and so many wonderful people, but I wanted to get paid eventually, right? So a church came along named Crosswalk SDA Church. They hired me to do high school ministry. We couldn't call it The Fall because, it's a little dirty. So we called it Compasio, even though it was the same thing as The Fall, right? And we opened our doors. It was a Friday night ministry. We spoke to high school students. We did lots of fun things, and I met some remarkable people, including Mattie, and then a guy named Brandon who said, "I will run sound for you every week," and boy, did he mean it. Now, I was enjoying my time at Compasio, but they hired a new senior pastor that wanted to take the church in a very different direction that was not including a Compasio. So it became time for the conference to say, we need to relocate you, and I had to say goodbye. And it was hard to say goodbye to Compasio, but what helped a lot is they let me crowd surf on my way out. This was at the last Compasio, and it was just a great way to say goodbye. From Compasio, I was assigned to Redlands Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is just down the road from here. And when I asked what they wanted me to do, they said, we want you to be the young adult pastor, and we want you to bring college students into the church. And so I said, if we're going to address college students and bring them into the church, we have to talk about all the things that college students want to talk about, like queer identities, queer orientations. We also got to talk about evolution and science and that role. We got to talk about gender equality. And they said, yes, go ahead, do that. And we started The Shadow in the year 2012. And it began by us only meeting once a month until a new facility opened, and we started to meet every week on Saturday morning. Now, it's here that Andrew and Summer Silvestri got involved, and they were leading every week, worship every week at at The Shadow. And I am just so grateful for all the time they put into The Shadow. We also, in conjunction with the church board, agreed that I would start a 9-year sermon series on August 6, 2013 in the book of 1 Corinthians. It would go all the way through every book of the Bible until we reached all 66, and then apparently I would just retire or something. And so we started, and there wasn't many people there to begin with. There was the Schwelts, there was my family, there was Sarah, there was the Silvestris, that was about it. But then word of mouth got out that we were talking about all of the Bible, not just the convenient parts, and a community started to form. And this community grew, and we started having some real memories together, and I was celebrated by the church for growing this community. So much so that in October of 2014, the church voted unanimously to ordain me as a minister of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it was a tremendous honor, and I loved being part of that community and growing the Shadow. But then something changed in 2015, and it seemed like everything that I said was perceived as being the worst way possible to say things. And the people who had once supported me felt that the things that I was saying was not true to the Adventist Christian tradition. They felt like it was going against the Adventist tradition. And no matter how hard I tried to explain to them how this was in line with Adventist theology, there was this real sense that I was going against the grain and I was leading people away from the Adventist church. And so I started getting calls to come into the conference office, which oversees all of the pastors in southeastern California. Now, the conference office does not look like a religious space. It looks something like this. And this is where we had a lot of conversations about what the shadow was, where we were going, and what would happen next. And I went down there a couple of times. You only go down there when you're in trouble. And eventually, there was the time that they told me, Craig, we are going to remove you from Redlands SDA Church and the young adult pastorship at that church, and we are going to place you somewhere else. And I asked, where are you going to place me? And they said, we don't know yet, but we'll figure that out later. And I looked at them and I said, I don't understand. What is the reason for me being removed from this job? Because I'm getting asked by a lot of people, what is it that you want me to tell them when they say, yes, why are you being removed? And the reason they gave me was this: you failed to understand the context in which you were assigned to do ministry. Now, I did not ask any follow-up questions because I was already in trouble. But since I have told people this answer, there's been a lot of follow-up questions, like, what does this actually mean? I want to share with you what I interpreted this as. The conference office views it as when they send a pastor to a church, you are supposed to take care of the people who are already there first, and then everyone else is just a bonus. This was hard for me to hear because I was asked from the very beginning to bring in college students, and we had brought in college students. If I would have known that this was the main objective, the shadow would have looked very different than what it ended up being. And so we had to share with the church that I was being removed, that I'd be reassigned somewhere yet to be determined, and we had our last shadow gathering on December 12, 2015. There was a tremendous outpouring of love and support for me and for the leaders of the shadow, and it was a tremendous honor to lead this congregation. And I said goodbye and then went home and realized that I had no idea what would be happening next. While I think that I was being fine and being normally reflective and just, kind of smiling my way through things, the people around me started to notice that something was wrong. And they cared about me. Specifically, a person named Mattie, who's right here on this stage, reached out to me. Yeah, right? She reached out and said, let's go get some coffee. Now, we tried to remember this week, and it was a really interesting conversation because this was a conversation over coffee that seemed like a long time ago. And the way that she remembers it is that Craig was discouraged. He was kind of knew what the next step was, but he was scared to take it. So somebody had to give him a push. And Mattie's like, why not me, right? And the way the conversation went was I was feeling bad for myself, and I'd say, and she'd be like, can you just start a church already? And it was harsh, but it was a loving harsh. So she talked to me, and what I remember her doing specifically was she started listing all the people who would be part of a new church plant. And she mentioned all of these people and started saying, we can do this, we can find funding, we can create this church. And she named all of these people, and I started going to those people individually and asking them if they'd be interested in being part of a church. And the majority answer was yes, and the majority of them said, we do want to start a church, but let's make sure that it's an Adventist church. So I said, okay. So we went to the conference office 4 different times in 4 different ways, asking them if we could start an Adventist church with them. And the conference office made it clear they were not interested in starting a Seventh-day Adventist church with us. When we asked why not, they declined to answer, which is fine. That's under their purview, and it's under what they see. I don't know what it's like to be a conference executive, but they decided not to answer, and we tried to start a church with them. And it was here that I had a decision to make as a person as to whether I needed to go forward with this direction of a new church or go somewhere where they were telling me I wouldn't be preaching at all. So I looked back at my time within the Adventist church, and I said, I think it's time to go. And so I wrote my resignation letter to them, which said, I am grateful for the opportunities I had at the conference. Thank you so much for employing me as a pastor for the past 6 years. I wish you and all the conference pastors the best as you continue to spread the good news of Jesus. And I can tell you, as I read this, the thing that's absent from this letter is the anger that I felt. It took me a couple of years to get over that. But I can tell you now, over 7 years later, I am still grateful. I have met the most amazing people because of that original employment, and it's easy to rag on your old boss, and I want you to know that I am grateful that they gave me the opportunity, and none of this would have happened if they didn't take a chance on me and employ me, and I gave them everything I could, and I hope that they look back and are grateful that I served them as well. Now, I took those names that Mattie had given me of people who'd be interested, and we got together at the Schofield's house on January 30. There was 19 of us there, and we voted to start a church together. We didn't know the name at that point. We just were like, a church. And once we started this church, they then escorted me out of the room with my family, and they talked about whether or not they were going to employ me as their pastor. They brought me in a few minutes later, and they said, we'd like to hire you as the lead pastor of this new church. I was deeply honored. Tammy made a piece of paper into a collar and put it on me. I have not worn a collar before that, and I have not worn a collar since then. But it was the first and only collar I will wear. And Haley Schwelt, who wasn't at the meeting but knew what was going on, she's an elder now. She remembers it this way. She says, the moment when our church transitioned from Shadow to become Paradox Church stands out as a pivotal, courageous, scary, and necessary leap, driven by our community's faith in creating a more inclusive and open-hearted community and world. Haley nailed it here, because when I think about Paradox and what started this church, we didn't start this church to protest some denomination or some belief. We started Paradox to keep a community together. And we also had a hope that we could welcome others into this community with open arms. So while you may not have been present at this meeting, we had you in some form on our mind that day because we felt like we had more to invite people to. We felt like we had more to offer this world. And when I think about the fact that we tried so hard to keep this community together, and that's what drove this church to be formed, I want you to know that Paradox Church has always been about people, and it always has been, and it always will be.
All right, church, let's sing this out together. Through the darkness, through the fire, within my human heart's desire, your love remains. Your love remains. Though I stumble, though I falter, through my weakness, you are strong, your love. Your love remains. Sing it out. Oh, my soul, it cries, oh, my soul, it cries out, soul, it cries out. Soul, it cries out. Through my failure, through my heartache, in my healing, in my pain, your love remains. Your love remains. Though I stumble, though I falter, through my weakness, you are strong, your love remains. Your love remains. Sing it out. And oh, my soul, it cries, oh, my soul, it cries
So on February 2016, we went to the Mission Gables Bull House and started setting up for our first ever Paradox Church service. We opened our doors, and a version of this community showed up at that time. Brandon ran sound on an iPad, and I had the dumbest looking grin on my face the entire morning. And shortly after this service, we held a luncheon for all who wanted, and I offered to host a Q&A. Now, it was either the first or the second question, but somebody, and I can't quite remember who, asked the question, "This is great and all, but do we really need another church?" And that person saw right through my soul and straight to my heart. And I said something along the lines of that time of, well, there's a community here of people who feel like this church needs to keep going because something's not being met. So that's the kind of church we're striving to be. But now, almost 8 years later, I can tell you, I'd answer this question a little differently because we have some experience between us. And there's 3 reasons I would give for why we really need another church in Redlands and online. The first reason, if you can find, if you track our history just so slightly. You see, we met at the Mission Gables Bull House for about 4 months, and then we went to the Prospect Park Carriage House for about 6 months, until we finally arrived here at our home in the Mission on December 17, 2016. A week later was our first ever Christmas Eve service as a church on Christmas Eve. And if you know me, you know that Christmas Eve is really special because, the Savior of the world was born, but also because my daughter was born as well on that day. And what I had done the year before at Redlands was I had written a letter to Maya for her to read at a later date to understand what happened and why I was being removed from a job that I loved. Now, in 2016, I wrote her a letter that she could read at a later date that explained what hope I felt all of a sudden and the hope I had for her in the future. Not only that, but 12 days before I read this letter, my son was born, and the next year I wrote him a letter talking about the hope that I had for him. This is one of our favorite traditions at Paradox. It's called Dear Maya and Dear Bodhi. It happens every December, including this December, which will take place next month. But it gets even better than this. Because last year, we opened it up to members of the congregation and invited them to write letters to their children. And it was a deeply moving experience about parents talking about how they found hope in a world that sometimes is difficult to find hope in. And as I was sitting there listening to them, I realized that Paradox is a place where we can hope together. And that's a really important space in today's modern society. But it doesn't just end there, because these letters influenced what we did a couple seasons later during the season of Easter. You see, back in 2016, on our first Easter together, we went up to Appleton Ranch and had our first sunrise service, and we've gone back every year since then, even 2020, no matter how hard COVID tried. And we had our Easter sunrise service. 2020 was a remote service from the same location, but it used to be just a day that we would celebrate. This last year, we turned it into a full season, and we invited people to share letters that they had written to loved ones who had passed away. And it was one of the most moving experiences I've ever been a part of. And the common thread between all 5 of these letters were people were writing letters to the loved ones that had passed away who had been dead for almost 10 years. And as I was listening to all of these letters, I realized that there's not a lot of places where you can read letters out loud and have people grieve with you, particularly for people who have died almost a decade ago. And it made me realize that Paradox is a place where we can grieve together. So if someone were to ask me, do we really need another church like Paradox? My first answer would be, we need more human spaces where we can hope and grieve together. If we were starting up a social media company and somebody said, do we really need another social media company? No, we have plenty of places to complain as it is, right? We need more places we can hope and grieve together as humans. And any time, whether that's a religious space or not, is a valuable space for humanity. Now, the second answer involves that 9-year sermon series that began in August 2013. It went to December 2015 at the Redlands Church. We then changed colors, and it finished in September of 2022. Now, we went through every book of the Bible and tried to examine every difficult passage of Scripture we could encounter. And we had a few mantras that guided us along the way. One that you know well is sermons should start discussions, not end them. Another one is that science and archaeology should be embraced, not vilified. Another one is the inspiration of Scripture is found in its humanity, not its perfection. And there are so many people here who have gone through a portion or even all of these 66 books, and the way they talk about it is very moving to me because they feel like this embodies what Paradox Church is all about. Hillary, our head elder, said this about Paradox. She said, "It's a place where you can believe without suspending your intelligence, and you can be intelligent without giving up on your beliefs." Thomas Jacques, who's one of our elders, said this about Paradox: "I never really felt like I belonged anywhere because I always had questions no one really wanted me to ask and ideas no one wanted to talk about. But here at Paradox, I just feel like a regular guy." Sally Burton, who's also one of our elders, said this: "The first time I attended Paradox, we were discussing a very difficult passage of Scripture from the book of Judges. But the way Paradox lifted women up in the service about the Levite's concubine blew me out of the water. I've never felt so included and seen in any other religious context." Another comment from an elder, Christian Barrera-Sandry, who we all love, said this: "Paradox in every aspect is an experience. So often we are told about the Bible, but here you experience the Bible. We talk about the history, the context, the power aspects, and we are invited to see and live the Bible from that perspective." Or as my wife once said, "Your sermons, Craig, would be really boring if you didn't have your maps." I think it's a compliment, and I'm taking it. I point all of this out because when somebody asks, do we really need another church? I would say, yes, we do. We need more spiritual communities with honest, intellectual, and human inquiries, period. If we had more churches like that, we would be doing much better. Which brings us to the third reason for why I would say we need another church. We have to go back now over 5 years ago to August 4, 2018, when we publicly became affirming of all queer persons in all regards here as a church. Not only that, but a year later, we became publicly affirming and celebratory and seeking gender equality for women everywhere. And then in 2020, we made a statement of anti-racism, prioritizing human rights as a sacred endeavor. Now, I want to go back to our first statement, which was an affirmation of queer people everywhere. If you look around the community of Redlands, there are 3 total publicly affirming churches in this area. The first was the United Church of Christ. And my friends, if we think we're progressive, they've been affirming since 1998. So they beat us by 20 years. We're trying to keep up with the United Church of Christ. We were the second church in Redlands to be publicly open and affirming, and then the third church was shortly after us, the Episcopalians, which are just down the road from us. Now, when somebody says, do we really need another church? My friends, I have to say, yes, we do. We need more churches with affirming theology and action. If you look at our church specifically, we have affirming theology and a contemporary worship style with electric guitars and drums, and we are the only one within a 60-mile radius that can say those 2 things. The nearest church that's like that is in LA. So, I point all of this out and these 3 different ideas because I want you to know something. The world needs more of these kind of churches, which is exactly the kind of church that we strive to be here at Paradox.
All right, let's sing this last verse out together. Through division, through injustice, through the hatred of my brother, your love remains. Your love remains. I can feel you pressing forward, bringing us to one another. Your love remains. Your love remains. And oh my soul, it cries, oh my soul, it cries out.
The next question is one that I don't get so directly, but I hear whispered until I show up and people stop talking about it. That question, of course, is Paradox a cult? To answer that question, let's go to the dictionary, shall we? According to the New Oxford American Dictionary, a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. My friends, I hate that definition. You want to know why? Christianity, by this definition, is a cult. We have a particular figure that we have devotion and veneration toward, right? What a terrible definition. So I found a much better definition of all places on masterclass.com, ? They define cult as this. The term cult refers most often to a group of people with usually atypical beliefs living in relative isolation from the world. They tend to centralize around one charismatic person, the cult leader, who orders the beliefs, behaviors, and customs of all the other members. Now, I can understand if someone is looking at Paradox Church from the outside and looking at me and thinking, this is awfully close to that definition. But my friends, I want you to know why I don't believe this is a cult and who is responsible for making sure that we aren't a cult. And to do that, we need to talk about some church structure. Can I get a hallelujah? All right, you guys are way into this. All right, here we go. So what we need to talk about church structure, we have to realize that Paradox Church runs by a partnership between the members of the church boards, and the church staff. Now, let's start with the members, because it's the one that everyone can be part of. A member is very simply defined here at Paradox. There are 3 requirements. The first is you have to support the mission of Paradox Church. You don't have to believe it. You just have to say, I understand why you do that, and I support you doing it. The second thing is you have to find Paradox to be a form of a spiritual home. You don't have to believe everything we say. You just have to say, when I get here, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm accepted for who I am. And the third part is you just have to express a written desire to become a member. Now, I get asked frequently how many members we have here at Paradox. The answer is 65. We don't stress membership that often at Paradox because if you want to be a member, we would love to have you. But we don't want you to feel like there are insiders and outsiders here. So yes, we have members, and you can serve at almost every level of leadership here at Paradox and not be a member if that's not what you want to do. However, the thing that members get to do is they get to vote in elder elections. And they vote on the elders, and once the elders are nominated by the members, they are confirmed then by me as the lead pastor. Now, our bylaws describes elders this way. The Board of Elders is to help create a positive spiritual climate within the church body. It is a spiritual body called to create and maintain stability and to protect the church in potentially negative situations. Now, the elders are not the ones who show up every day and run the nitty-gritty of the church. They are much more concerned with the larger picture of what the church is doing. The nitty-gritty then falls on the church staff, which is myself, Jasmine, and Jeremy. You over there. Jasmine and Jeremy. We are the ones that are responsible for scheduling, emails, all of those different things, sermon series, and every little facet of these things. We take direction from the elder board, and we do the best we can to execute what the elder board wants us to do. I want everyone here to know, Jasmine, Jeremy, myself are happy to get coffee with you at any time. We will be happy to get to know you better. If you want to share some ideas, we would love to hear those ideas. And we are available here to serve you. However, I want you also to know that if you feel like you're not getting anywhere with us, there are places you can go, namely the elder board. Anyone here who is a member can address the elder board, and we have an outline process for that. Not only that, but we recently wanted to improve our staff experience at Paradox. So we now have a personnel advisory committee. This is brand new this year in the bylaws. And these 4 wonderful people oversee the staff health and make sure that we have a healthy working environment. The bylaws says it this way. The Personnel Advisory Committee will advise the lead pastor in matters of conflict resolution, staff evaluations, and management style. In addition, this committee shall oversee and handle all concerns, complaints, or accusations against the lead pastor. So if anyone had a concern about me and thought I was acting unethical, you could go to any one of these 4, and there's a process outline for how the church handles it, because we all don't think I'm perfect. Now, the elders also are people who will then oversee the staff complaint while the PAC deals with it very closely. The elders oversee the broader scope of it, and if things get really bad, then a complaint is eventually escalated to people who are off campus, but they are known as the overseers. These are wonderful people, Dustin, Tanya, Maury, Kim, and Randy, who have all played a major factor in my life and have mentored me in some way, shape, or form. It is ultimately their decision once a complaint gets up to them to decide whether or not I should continue in employment or not, and they also have the ability to punish me if I've done something wrong. Now, the bylaws says this: the members of the Board of Overseers must be ministers, theologians, or spiritual leaders who know and love Paradox Church and the lead pastor. And while that may sound a little murky, what's really important to understand here is I have had each of these people tell me no, and I trust them to tell me no in the future because I've been able to hear it from them. Now, each of these people have to be confirmed by the elders. They don't want anybody on there that'll just say, yes, Craig's great to everything. So they make sure that they watch over each of those nominations and that these people are willing to hold me accountable. There's one other board you need to know about, and that is the Board of Trustees. This group oversees all things financial and legal, and they also oversee building projects. From our church bylaws, we read, the major financial affairs of the corporation shall be managed by the Board of Trustees, whose members shall have a fiduciary obligation to the corporation. So when you think about all of these people, elders, overseers, personnel advisory committee, trustees, all of these different people, they are all charged with a responsibility as groups of people. All of these people and all of us are working together with you to see and embrace Jesus Christ and all, not Jesus Christ and Craig. It's not what we're here for, right? And when I think about what this church is and how we operate, we are constantly encouraging you to go outside, to listen to other voices, to find value in other religions, to read books by authors who aren't Christian. We are doing our best to keep pushing you out there to see that God is so much bigger than even Paradox can tell you. Because, my friends, what we have found as a group is that God is bigger than any one church, any one pastor, and any one religion.
And every day we go to war again. We assume we know so much more than them, of only what they have to say. And headline breaks, and we start to hate again, calling them names again. We give our peace away. And I hope they see it, 'cause I wanna see it. I hope we believe it. Sing it out. And I wanna see the love all around you. And I wanna know that love is all around you. It's all around you. Day by day, hope fades away again. We know that there is pain within we cannot medicate. We learn to feel, learn to begin again, open our eyes again to see our brother's pain. And I hope they see it, 'cause I wanna see it. I hope we believe
The last question we are going to address today before we hear a few people's perspectives on what it means to be part of Paradox is this question that I get frequently from people who have just started attending, which is, if I want to become part of Paradox Church, then what do I do next? Well, there are several things that you can do to get involved, but the first place that I would recommend you start is by discussion groups. These groups are people who continue the conversation that is started on Saturday mornings, and it meets midweek, and they have all these conversations about what it means for our lives and how we live it out in a way that we can see and embrace Jesus Christ in the ordinary moments of our own lives. This is, my friends, the best way to experience Paradox Church. So we'd love for you to join a discussion group. Another way that you can get to know other people and be more involved is you can volunteer. We have some absolutely fantastic volunteers who are doing just about everything. This includes people who read liturgies like Anna, Chris, and Regina this morning. We also have people who are running or teaching Paradox Kids in the background and also running Paradox Kids social events. We also have social events for adults that people are welcome to, including the one tonight that we'd love for you to join us for. We also have opportunities to volunteer with our greeting and hospitality team who do such a great job. And there's also outreach events that we are trying to get more and more involved with, like the Hunger Walk, the Shoe Drive, or the Food Drive. And then as far as worship production, whether it's music, running cameras, running tech, we would love to have you involved. And the best part about all of it is that you become known by a team of people because none of these volunteers work in isolation. So if you're wanting to know more people, joining a volunteer team is an excellent way to do it. Another way you can really help Paradox is by donating to Paradox to support the work. I have been blown away since day one by the generosity of this congregation. And I wish I could tell every donor every time it happens, but when somebody new comes to the church and I'm able to give them spiritual counseling or do something else for them, they say, hey, how much does it cost to do this? And I say, well, there's a lot of generous people that want to make sure that this is available for everyone. And so they make it possible for this to be free. And this is just something that I love being part of this church for, is the fact that I don't have to worry about whether or not someone can pay for it for me to help them. As a church, we can help them no matter what, and it's because of your generosity. In just a few moments, we're going to pass an offering bucket where you can put cash or checks in there. You can also donate on Venmo, but we are so grateful for the generosity you've shown us. Now, one of our major purchases happened a few years ago. That is, we bought let me go to here, actually. What most people don't know about Paradox is that we have 85 different households that make this possible. From the last year, there was 85 different houses that donated to Paradox in some way, shape, or form. Now, what most people don't know is that a lot of people are those online. 50 of those households are people who are here in person, and 35 are people who watch just online. And I can't thank our online congregation enough for supporting this work as well. Now, we also donate a portion of our offering every month to Family Service Association of Redlands and Time for Change. These organizations are some of the best organizations we found in Redlands and San Bernardino, and we give to them on a regular basis. We also bought a building not too long ago in 2021, and we've been working on some designs with a man named Tyler, who is one of my friends from Montana State. He is the architect on this new building. And then recently we've brought on Brandon Herman to oversee the whole project and make sure that this thing actually gets built. Right now, there's some really beautiful renderings of what we're hoping to transform this building into. I know everybody likes the renderings. This is what the building looks like right now. It will one day look like this. Oh, we're back at architecture school. This is the best. And then this is what we're hoping the sanctuary will one day look like. And it has just been a joy to put together. Brandon, we're just so excited that he's on. People want to know when we're moving in. That's always a tricky question. Right now, we are applying for a conditional use permit. Once that goes through, we'll have a lot more solid date, but we're hoping to apply here we've almost got the full application together and should be applying for that very soon. So your donations support all of those different things. The last thing I want to talk to you about of how you can get involved is through connection cards. Now, this is for online as well as in person. Online, it's at our website, paradoxredlands.com. In person, if you reach in the seat back in front of you, there is a connection card. We fill these out every week, and if you could put your name and where you've come from on the card, we would send you a token of our appreciation because we're so grateful for the gift of your presence. We do this every week because it helps us to become a more personal church, People write prayer requests on the back of the cards, and we just make this a priority. So I cannot thank you enough for filling these out because it helps the church staff know who you are. So we're going to take 2 minutes this time and fill out these cards, and then a bucket will be passed that will be collecting offering, and you can also drop your connection cards in there. And when I look at all of these things, it makes me realize just how much it's important for us to get to know one another. So thank you for filling all of these cards out. I wanted to close by inviting 3 people to join me on stage, Jasmine, Abby, Eric, and have them share what it's been like being part of Paradox. These are all people who've been involved since the beginning, and I'll introduce each of them as they start, but I want to start with Eric. Eric was on the founding board all the way back on January 30, 2016, and has served as a trustee ever since the first iteration, and I thought Eric would be a perfect person to share what Paradox has meant to him. So Eric, go ahead.
Thank you. Since this is supposed to be a thing about Paradox and learning about Paradox, I found it only fitting to present this as a letter. So, dear Paradox, when we heard that Pastor Craig's previous home church was pushing Craig out, we were extremely saddened. Growing up in that denomination, I figured there wasn't much that we could do about it. My wife, Christine, however, hadn't grown up in the same church environment. She said, well, why can't we just start another church? Start our own church? And she wasn't the only one having this thought. We met in Schofield's living room shortly after that and resolved to create Paradox Church. It was a new and scary chapter for us, but that move and the years since then have been an enormous joy for me and my family. We've had the opportunity to discuss challenging topics and explore our world and our faith with a freedom that still boggles my mind. Paradox has given me a wonderful new outlook on humanity and the beauty all around us. It's taught me that it's good to question what I believe. It's taught me to stop thinking so much about the afterlife and to be more present in this life. That this life isn't just meant to be a prison to be endured, but perhaps most importantly, it has immersed me in the thoughts, fears, aspirations, and motives might have been for the biblical authors. This context has helped me to understand and appreciate the stories of people many centuries ago and learn how to apply their lessons to our current world and be a more loving person. Besides just the direct understanding Paradox has built for me, it's deeply enriched the lives of my family. Paradox Kids has been a spectacular forum for my kids to learn more about God and how to live better lives in this world. Our Paradox Kids community has been so much fun, and we appreciate all the fun times and get-togethers at parks, pools, and in nature. Thank you to all the members of the founding board, to Craig, and everyone who has served in leadership since. I also thank everyone that we have the pleasure of being in community with. You all make a difference in my family's lives and help us to better see and embrace Jesus Christ in all. Sincerely, your friendly neighborhood rocket scientist, Eric.
Next up is Jasmine. Jasmine is the other full-time staff member. She started working here just about a year and a half ago. Full-time was a year and a half ago. She worked for a year before that part-time, and her family has been here since week 1 of Paradox. So, Jasmine.
When I first came to Paradox, I was a freshman in high school, still figuring out what spirituality and religion meant for me. The next year, I would still attend other churches because that's where my friends would be, but I would come to Paradox with my family. It wasn't until my junior year I realized that what I was learning from Paradox was so different than anywhere else I heard. I loved coming every week and learning new things I had never heard of or thinking from perspectives I've never thought of. I started to become more and more involved in the church and my spirituality. Then when COVID hit, I questioned a lot of things. I went through long periods of doubt and reconsidered all that I had previously learned before. I was scared to go to church knowing that I was unsure of things and couldn't fully say I believed what I had before. One of my favorite things about Paradox is it's a place to learn and discuss, not claim to be someone or something. I eventually started attending church again, online, and felt safe in my deconstruction of my beliefs because I never felt like I was forced to believe any certain way. Even when I didn't know everything about how I felt or believed, I was welcome to Paradox despite my spiritual journey. I didn't feel like I had to be good with God to go to church. Paradox is a place for everyone, regardless if you're religious or not. If you grew up with these stories or not, we are just people who come together to learn and grow and ultimately love more. I love that it can be a place where I feel comfortable inviting friends and family, even without religious backgrounds, and they'll be accepted just the same. As I grow older, I stray further from my traditional upbringings, but it doesn't scare me anymore because I have a place in a community that makes me feel safe in all that I believe.
Amen. Thank you. And then back in 2016, when we were trying to figure out who would be elders, Abby came to the First Church business meeting and said, I'd like to be an elder. And she has been one of 2 of our longest termed elders ever, 7.5 years on the elder board. So Abby.
Good morning, Paradox Church. It's such a privilege to stand up here and share what this community has meant to my family and me. I'm so proud to be a part of this church that, for me, has been an oasis of authenticity and hope. Alex and I first attended The Shadow when we were an engaged, long-distance couple visiting family in Loma Linda. We were so drawn to the intellectually stimulating sermons, and because we are complete nerds, we started planning long-distance dates where we watched the sermons together on YouTube. When we moved here in 2015, we had already planned to join the community. It was a no-brainer for us to follow that community that we were drawn to when Paradox was founded. Over the last 7.5 years, one of the blessings we've experienced within this community is freedom to explore difficult questions and express doubt. It has felt so much more honest than being encouraged to pursue blind faith. We feel a profound sense of belonging each week, even when going through seasons of spiritual darkness. Paradox has been our safe place to bring our doubts, process the world's events, challenge the status quo, share in grief, and celebrate life's joys. This is a community that isn't afraid to stand up for what is right, even when it feels hard or unpopular. Serving alongside all the elders has been such a gift to me. I've learned so much from everyone's voices and the journey of growth that we've been on. I'm so proud every time we get to read any of our 3 statements for LGBTQ+ affirmation, women's empowerment, and anti-racism. For me personally, Paradox has been like that steadfast, non-judgmental friend standing with me through the complex journey of deconstructing your faith and then reconstructing. It's been the friend who encourages me to grow in love without asking me to silence my critical thinking. It's the place I turn when the world seems confusing and dark. I always find hope here, whether it's in the sermon, the songs, the heartfelt moments of lament, or the joyous celebrations, or simply in the warm conversations with dear friends. Paradox reminds me of the goodness that resides in humanity. And now I'm gonna try not to cry, because now this safe haven extends to our children. It's the place that we trust our kids are gonna be celebrated for who they are and whoever they grow to be. There's no toxic theology here or like sneaky indoctrination. It's always love over shame. It means so much to us now that we have built a community where our kids and everybody's kids' curiosity and participation is fully embraced. Thank you to all of you who have made Paradox Church this loving, genuine, and hopeful community. It's enriched our lives in so many ways. I'm so excited to see where this journey takes us next.
My friends, thank you to everyone who's been part of the Paradox community. And if you are looking for a spiritual home, and we would love to have you join us here at Paradox Church. May we all become more loving people because of the time we spend together as we strive to see and embrace Jesus Christ in all.
All right, let's stand as we close out the service with this song. This is a song we've sung over the years at Paradox, so I invite you to join us this morning. And standing up from crags and clay, the peaks of earth in full display, they break the lines, they break the sky. It's full of light, it's full of chaos of creation stands, a tapestry, a symphony of life himself, of love herself. It's written in our very skin, and all praises to the one who made it all, who made it all. Sing it out. It's all praises to the one who made it all and finds it beautiful. Soil is spilling life to life. Stars are born to fill the night. The ocean scorn the majesty of sculpted shore. Mystery and all praises to the one who made it all, who made it all. And all praises to the one who made it all and finds it beautiful, fearfully and wonderfully and beautifully made. Sing that out again. Fearfully and wonderfully and beautifully made. Fearfully and wonderfully and
Dear God, as a church, we pray that every song we sing, every word we speak, every hour we volunteer, and every moment outside these walls bring glory and honor to your name in a way that inspires all of us to become more loving people, more loving of you, more loving of each other, and more loving of ourselves. In the human name of Jesus, in the eternal name of Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us for church today.
Please join us next week when we discuss the theology of paradox.
May the story and work of Paradox help you to become a more loving person.
Amen.
Amen.